sticking with cricket for this segment of the SportsMax Zone, but switching to the women's game as the West Indies head coach Shane Deitz on Monday gave his assessment of the recently concluded regional Super 50 Cup. And while the Australian highlighted several positives coming out of the tournament, he expressed disappointment with the quality of the batting, particularly the long-standing issue plaguing all levels of cricket across the region, struggles against spin bowling.
The main thing that's standing out to me was the batting and the lack of scores, the low strike rates, no big hundreds made by anyone in the whole tournament. So the batting side of it, and particularly playing against spin bowling, is a bit of a concern moving forward, particularly the younger players not really having big scores and dominating the tournament, which we need them to do, to start learning to be international cricketers and to also start pushing for their selection in the West Indies team.
Now, while acknowledging that the standard of batting and cricket as a whole in the Caribbean is a product of infrastructure, Deitz insists that the current setup is not sustainable for producing competitive international teams. He also says that Cricket West Indies has taken steps to rectify this.
The players need to have 12-month training programs and not just come together just before the regional tournament for a few weeks and put a team together and that's going to be good enough to play at the tournament. Yes, these tournaments are important, but that individual player development is pretty much a 12-month a year in, year out process that needs to be supported in all the regions, and that's with strength and conditioning, with all aspects of their life and cricket and support. That's probably the key area. You can't just turn up and expect to play well in a regional tournament against some really good opposition unless you're training hard 12 months a year. And vice versa, go from that tournament to be an international cricketer, it's a huge step, a huge gap. So Cricket West Indies and the boards, we're all going to work together to have good systems in place to make sure our talent is getting nurtured and developed the way we need to be. And my job as the coach is to set up how I think and we think we're going to have success at international level and a style of player that we're going to play, which is going to be successful to win World Cups, because that's our job. And I'll filter that through to the coaches on the ground and make sure we're all on the same page, working well together and giving our players the tools to be able to come into international cricket and perform against the likes of Australia in our West Indies cricket. Here we're really putting some plans in place now, which hopefully you'll see in the next 5 to 10 years a definitely improvement in the standard. Because if you look at Australia and all those other countries, their programs are 6 months a year, week in, week out, playing cricket against each other. We've got, 6 weeks pretty much of regional cricket all year. So there's a big gulf in what we need to do.
Yeah, Shane Deitz, he's current coach of the West Indies women's team. Now, veteran cricket commentator Joseph Reds Pereira now joins us via phone to dissect Deitz's comments, which come less than a month away from the ICC 50 over World Cup qualifying tournament. Reds, welcome to the SportsMax Zone. Great to have you as usual. Do you have a report card on Shane Deitz since she's been in this job? What rating would you give his performance as coach since she's taken over?
Well, I haven't seen the improvement I was hoping for, but there are a couple of green shoots that is encouraging. But I think he was very honest there, Lance, that unless the West Indies board can finance that continual type of training, the players are on contract. I mean, they're all available. But the standard was not very high. I fault the format. I think the format should have been 2 semi-finals and a final. The girls would have had more cricket. You could have judged them a lot better. But my disappointment from the press conference is nobody asks about the fitness level. And I think that that's one area that we have not really focused on. We have not seen the kind of energy, the kind of speed of foot. we have difficulty with the dot balls. We have difficulty with the catches. And he made the point. After the various get-together, after the various training period, what happens with the girls? What work are they being asked to do by the pathway coaches? They really got to leave Antigua after a squad training, and with a clear idea of what the coaches will put them through to maintain that kind of standard. He said it's not just we get together, but it's what they do after, in between, Lance.
So, Reds, I think you actually hinted at that during the press conference, but it came across a little bit strange because he highlighted that the girls would have to be on individual programs because they are they have those contracts in place and they are available. So even if it wasn't in the setting where they are camping, he says that the girls would have individual workout programs that would keep them fit. Does that work, though?
Well, that can only work if the respective coaches in the respective countries they come from, really from day one, push the envelope. I mean, really work on their technique, work on their fitness, work on the ability to think the game was batting and bowling. And I don't believe that is happening. I mean, that probably has not happened at the senior men's level. You know, the relevant coaches, I mean, right now, Darren Sammy can have a 2-week session, a 3-week session. They all go back to their respective islands. What is the follow-up program? What's the program? Is it being really followed with the instructions from the head coach? I think that has always been a question. It's probably not happening now at the level you need to have. So when they come back, you can see the increase in many areas of their game.
Sir Reds, I want to play a clip for you. I'm not sure, well, you probably would have heard it in the press conference. One of our reporters, Christiane, actually asked a really good question that kind of highlighted, in my opinion, Shane Deitz and him being quite the unconventional coach, especially in regards to how he wants his team to play aggressively in games. And he was speaking about how they approach certain deliveries, whether it's in regards to intent or inability. Just take a watch here.
The major issue is it's playing spin and having options to be able to score. You know, there wasn't many sweep shots in particular played, and there was no fielders. If you're at the ground, there was no fielders for the sweep shot at all for a lot of the games. And our players are still trying to hit singles, the long on, long off, or trying to hit over the long off, which doesn't make sense. So, yeah, we've got some thoughts and meetings and bringing out a few support mechanisms for the coaches and the players to understand how the top players play spin. And Hayley's probably one of the best players of spin in the world. And we've got her as an example to, you know, how to score against spin. And that's one key area we're going to work on. No,
Sir Reds, I dabbled in cricket when I was much younger, right? Dabbled. Stressing on that word in particular. And one of the things that I would come across, the teaching is the fact, okay, you need to play as straight as possible. Don't play across the line. And here is a coach that's speaking about a particular instance where the sweep shot was eliminated from our women's game, where the fielders were comfortable not being able, or were comfortable being able to allow the sweep shot that wasn't being played, and the fielder being in the position to either stop it or not stop it. In fact, he said that there was nobody there for the sweep shot, and that players were deciding to play straight all the time and weren't able to find the boundary. Is that interesting for you? Because that sounds a little bit unorthodox to me in terms of how we'd want the girls to play.
the sweep shot can only come by really practicing the sweep shot as a specific skill. You know, we go back to the basic truth is that the only team that could have the kind of competition that he's talking about regularly, even with the coaches standing by, is Trinidad and Tobago. We do not have a structure in Jamaica. We do not have a structure in Guyana, in the windwards and leewards, where you have regular cricket. And unless the West Indies board focused on developing the game in the member territories, the girls will probably go back, except Trinidad, who can have the girls' club play against each other, which helps the whole progress of developing the skills and developing the battle in skill, playing a variation of shot. And, you know, it comes back to that basic position. I mean, you look at the under-19 squad that recently played in the World Cup. I mean, if that's the players of tomorrow, that was really a rush job. One of the reasons is, and Roland Butcher, who spent a lot of time with this, says unless you get the girls playing at 12 and 13 and 14 in their own space, not with boys, but in their own space as a focus on the girls, you aren't going to develop the players coming through that can match the talents of Australia and New Zealand and India and South Africa.
Yeah, Reds, there's no question that as a region, the level of development throughout the different territories is behind the 8 ball. But I guess it would have been pleasing for you, Reds, to see a Leeward Islands beating Jamaica in the recent Super 50 with, you know, players like Claxton and Amanda Edwards and so on. Is there any sign from your standpoint, and of course from the windwards with young players like Zeta James and so on, is there any feeling from your standpoint that we're beginning to see some growth in the leewards and windwards, who have, as far as women's cricket is concerned, been behind the other territories in the past?
Well, you just named one player who probably showed her ability against Jamaica. I think when you look at the green shoots I mentioned, I like to mention Fraser. I would like to mention Glasgow. I think they have the potential to go to the higher level. I mean, I think we are very happy with the performance of Henry. We know the ability of Haley Matthews, of Dotton. Campbell has been an experienced player and needs to put more runs on the board. Aline, Fletcher, Jabor, Crafton, Ramnot, Muniswar. I think that is the potential of the team that maybe can go forward. It's difficult for the leewards and windwards unless the finance is available for them to have regular competition among themselves. In St. Lucia, the girls virtually practice among the boys. I think that's probably the same thing in the leewards. And there's a question of investing in the development of women's cricket. We do not have cricket in schools, although the schools play everything else but cricket. And I think there lies the problem. We just don't have a nursery coming through. We have basically about 15 or 16 players that the coach could really take to a world tournament and hope to knock them into some kind of shape. But there are some encouraging performances in the recent tournament. But beyond that, we don't have much beyond that, and it's going to take a lot of time, a lot of investment for us to produce more talent.
Okay, Reds, we're going to leave it there. Let's hope that the West Indies can do well in the World Cup qualifiers coming up next month in Pakistan and secure their spot in the World Cup proper and make a mark there. But thanks, Reds, for talking to us, and we'll be in touch.
Okay.
Yeah, of course, the West Indies will be taking on Bangladesh, Ireland, Pakistan, Scotland and Thailand in the World Cup qualifiers. The top two in that tournament would advance to the World Cup tournament. And it's ironic that the West Indies currently have a number 6 ranking in ODI cricket in the world, which they needed to have at the cutoff point, and they didn't. I think they were 7th or 8th in the world at the time, which is why they have gone through this qualifying process. But at the moment, they are in the top 6. But that advance in the rankings for them came a little bit too late, and they now have to play in qualifying. I would suspect, though, that they will be making the top 2 and going to the World Cup. We'll be back with more on the SportsMax Zone after this.